Hi, and welcome to episode 60 of Malachi's Message Toxic Mold Sex podcast. Episode 60 is a SIRS edition. For the second time, we get to hear from Dr. Dorninger, who is a registered naturopathic doctor and licensed acupuncturist. Prior to med school, he received his BA in Kinesiology, and then he finished his E.M.T training and volunteered at Porter Care Hospice in Denver. This dual exposure of medical perspectives laid down the roots for Dr. Dorninger's integrative approach to diagnosis, treatment, and healing. Following undergrad, Dr. Dorninger served as an E.M.T, and then he completed his doctorate in naturopathic medicine and his master's degree in acupuncture. In 2005, with all of this incredible knowledge, Dr. Dorninger founded Roots and Branches Integrative Healthcare, a clinic dedicated to mystery illness where he focuses on educating the underlying causes and unrelenting chronic illness. Dr. Dorninger is not concerned with what you have as much as he is with why you have it. We are so excited to have Dr. Dorninger be a friend to Malachi's Message, and we are so excited just for everybody to hear the way that he talks about SIRS in such a real, raw, and fun, natural way.
We are so excited to be back here and being able to talk to Dr. D. Eric here again about his journey, and he is just an incredible educator and a beautiful person in the world of SIRS and mold illness. So thank you so much for coming back and talking with us.
Thanks for having me. I hear it's going to get personal today.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. You know it. And Emily, I don't know if you want to start us off with our first question, but I'm just glad to be here and hanging out with you guys.
Well, we're here specifically to get personal with Dr. D. We want to know all about your journey and your story. And so if you can just roll right into that and let us, hear what you've gone through and where it's brought you.
Yeah. I think if I go all the way back to the start, I'm the son of an Austrian immigrant, Fritz Dorninger, and my dad tried to instill in me his psychotic work ethic and would say things to me in the butcher shop growing up all the time. Yeah, if you're going to do something, do it right the first time. If you're going to do something, do it right the first time, over and over and over again. And he would share his constant disappointment with the way things were done in America, whether it was as simple as how you make bologna and frankfurters in the bologna kitchen, to how someone tiles things, to how someone lays concrete, how someone shovels a sidewalk of snow or sweeps with a broom. My dad had something to say about the quality, the integrity, and the lack of pride that he saw in America. And that really was instilled in me. And I tell people all the time, we don't have a Democrat or a Republican problem. We have an integrity problem. America is steeped in an integrity problem. And growing up, I got to go to Austria a fair amount because he's two of nine who immigrated. My Tante Maria, my godmother, two godmothers, but she's also in the States. And we went back to Europe a lot. And I have a cousin over there, Werner, who's incredible at tiling, exquisite. And I always tell patients, when Werner tiles your home, he didn't do it for you. He did it for him. That is his Picasso that he is gifting you. And he takes pride in that Picasso. And let's just say I might have another cousin who's got a little bit of a problem with alcohol and also does some housework, some of the traditional building arts. And you don't want to let him in your house because things are sloppy, corners are cut, and everyone in the village makes fun of him for his shoddy work. And that's how it should be. We should make fun of people when they're not doing their job right, unless there's some severe mental challenge or issue there, and then we have to help repurpose their life so they don't screw up your house. Everyone has meaning in this world. Everyone has a place where they can serve and help out their community. But if you're not good at something, you can't keep going into our patients' houses and screwing it up. And the biggest thing we see people are not good at actually is integrity. They can be trained on how to hang a door. They can be trained on how to caulk a chimney so that it doesn't leak, and how to do proper window installation, et cetera, et cetera. So I grew up with that background of get ready to be disappointed by America. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of facade. There's money grabs. There's pretending to do things for the right reasons. And then there's people who do things for the right reasons. And for me, my biggest inspiration as a doctor with that is Dr. Richie Shoemaker, because that guy had so many ideas that he put to the data-driven test that did not pan out, And he got honest with, well, that was a nice idea and feeling I had in the shower this morning. The data said it's not true, so we're not going to do that. And the aftermath of true, not true with using healthy controls versus sick patients is the Shoemaker protocol and the strict diagnostic criteria for saying you is SIRS or you isn't SIRS. My other biggest hero is my mom, and she was just the one who taught me how to be service driven, and the joy in life is really helping others with their problems. And, you know, we did something called CAUSE growing up, Christian Approach to Urban Suburban Encounter, where we take all the Tommy Hilfiger and polo shirts from Westfield, New Jersey, and take it into Jersey City, which is now totally gentrified, but you'd sell a guy a brand new Tommy Hilfiger suit for $1, get him trained up on how to interview well, help him find a job, and then any money that was made was used to buy subsidized government food and given out in the back for free for people who couldn't eat. And those were the things my mom did, Meals on Wheels, visiting shut-ins, and so on and so forth. And because of her influence, I wasn't scared to like go hang out with a senior, a 92-year-old in memory care with poopy diapers and funky smells and all that stuff, and just enjoyed working with people of all walks of life at all chapters in their health and healing. And that's really the spirit behind Roots and Branches, of my mom's service-driven heart and saying, hey, if you really want to have fun in this world, go help people. And my dad saying, hey, you're going to be disappointed in what you find out there, because people get lost on their way. And, you know, I'm human like everyone else. I'm imperfect like everybody else. But my goal when I was at CU Boulder, I got very lost, and I decided I want to do medicine. I want to do healthcare. And there was two types of medicine that really made sense to me. And the first was emergency medicine. And I tell people all the time when I'm out teaching, the job of the ER is to make sure you don't die today. And they are incredible at it. They're incredible. And we are grateful for our brothers and sisters who pound the pavement every day, making sure someone, you know, comes down off acid, or their gallbladder doesn't rupture, or, you know, their head trauma from a car accident doesn't kill them. And I've been in the ER, and it is bloody crazy, you know, especially during the full moon, especially in college towns with the extra twist of drugs and alcohol and so on and so forth. And I loved it. I really enjoyed being a part of that. Okay, we kept you here. We still have a chance for you to enjoy your life and be with your family and not become a tragic accident. The problem is the ER then discharges you to your chronic illness, right? So they're very good at making sure you don't die today, but then there's no one to scoop you up for the migraine you've had for 9 years, for the depression you have, for the dementia that's creeping in, for the joint pain, for the skin rashes that are wrecking your life, right? For the chronic itching, for the tingling and numbness that you keep saying, is this MS? Do I have ALS? Is this MS? Do I have ALS? Do I have Parkinson's? Da, da, da. There's no one to pick them up. So I shared with a platonic girlfriend, a friend of mine, my vision of healthcare after I had some failed experiences with the healthcare model, non-emergency room. And she said, oh, that's naturopathic medicine. There's a school for that in Seattle and in Portland, Oregon, and in Arizona. And I went on this thing called the internet, and there was 3 schools with 3 addresses and 3 telephone numbers. That's what a web page was back then, right? It was like the yellow books. It was like the yellow pages. And I called them, and I got my little swag bag of all my pamphlets of this is what naturopathic medicine is, and so on and so forth. I said, this is what I was trying to think medicine should be. And it was all based in the therapeutic order. And people who hear me teach and lecture, hear me preach the therapeutic order all the time. And in naturopathic medicine, if you're a tried and true naturopath, step 1 of the therapeutic order is remove obstacle to cure. And you have to say it in the 1950s nature cure doc voice as you're coming out of a cold plunge, right? It's remove obstacle to cure. And Joe Pizzurno, one of the founders of Bastyr, later with Jared Zeff and Pam Schneider and a couple other people who kept the spirit and the principles of naturopathy alive, call it identify and treat the underlying causes. Identify and treat the underlying causes. And that is getting lost in holistic, integrated, and conventional model. And we want to resurrect, identify and treat the underlying causes, right? SIBO is not a diagnosis. It's what you have, not why you have it. Why small intestinal bacterial overgrowth? Hashimoto's is not a diagnosis. You have an immune system confusion that's attacking a thyroid, resulting in a thyroid fallout. You have to go upstream and say, why is my immune system confused? Karate chopping my own thyroid. Fibromyalgia, yeah, I looked that up. Algia means pain and myofibers mean muscle fibers. So I told you my muscles hurt in plain English, and you told me in Greek. I figured you out, your muscles hurt, right? And everyone is guilty of this, myself included. I have to constantly stay connected with identify and treat underlying cause, right? The medical doctor calls you chronic fatigue syndrome. Did you just say I'm tired all the time syndrome? Just checking. So my diagnosis is tired all the time syndrome. Cool. Well, I just went to my DC and they said I have adrenal fatigue. So my adrenals are just so tired, they need a nap. No, you have hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis dysregulation from inflammation from somewhere 99% of the time. 1% of the time you have an autoimmune attack on your adrenals called Addison's. And then why are you autoimmune attacking your adrenals? Right. And then the naturopath comes in sounding really smart, says you have mitochondrial dysfunction. And you're like, thank you, Captain Obvious. You just told me the mitochondria, the powerhouse of my cell that I learned in general chemistry with that little sunburst around it, that should pump out 33 to 35 units of ATP, cheap product life force per glucose log burn in the presence of an oxygen bellow. Tom Hanks cast away. Look at the fire I've created. You're saying that that's dysfunctional. Thanks. Everybody knew that. I'm effing exhausted, right? I have maternal guilt because I'm not showing up as a mom. Then I'm also have this dangling carrot of my degree, and I'm supposed to be contributing with making money for the family. And my mom's getting older and dementia. Am I going to be that? Do I have the same HLA as she does? And I'm exhausted to the point where all I want to do is lay in bed and watch Netflix, right? Why? I knew that person. They told me their story. They were a star volleyball player in high school. They were a straight A student with occasional B's. They were a Girl Scout. They were a Boy Scout. You know, what happened? And that's where we want to get to identifying and treating the underlying cause. Step 2 is reestablish healthy regimen. We're very good at that with diet, lifestyle, nutritionists, health coaches, naturopaths, so on and so forth. Step 3 is stimulate the vital force. Some acupuncture, a good homeopathic, Wim Hof breathing, wake up and do some jumping jacks, exercise, sauna. You don't have a sauna deficiency. It is just an additive modality, not diagnosis, that can help accelerate your healing once the underlying cause is removed. Step 4, tonify systems. That's targeted nutraceuticals. I find on a lab that you have a biomarker like a vitamin D of 18, we give you vitamin D, right? Step 5, correct structural integrity. I want a good chiro when my rib is out to put my rib back in, but then that chiro should be teaching me how to hold my own rib. The bones do what the muscles tell them to do. And that's where we use a lot of Pete Egosky's Pain-Free book and my good friend Eric Goodman, who's going to be at SIRSX.com's foundation training, right? So foundation training is an incredible way to reclaim your body. And Dr. Goodman is a DC, a chiro, who blew out his L5S1. Adjustments help, but didn't totally eradicate his pain. So he had to come up with a method that retrains his muscles to load his back so that he's not codependent on his chiropractor, just grateful. Or maybe he's going to do a competition in surfing. He's going to get adjusted a little bit to be in tip-top shape. Or maybe he's got a rib out and you can call him on a rainy day. Step 6 is drugs and surgery, right? That is the top of the therapeutic order. Why are we using drugs and surgery as a first line of treatment in conventional model? It's a last resort, unless it's a curative drug. So in Roots and Branches, there's 3 kinds of prescriptions. Miracle drugs like cholestyramine that literally eradicates SIRS as long as you're in a clean building. Harvoni, eradication of hepatitis C, right? Then there's Rob Peter to pay Paul drugs. I might do 2 to 4 weeks of omeprazole or a Prilosec or an H2 blocker to see if we can calm someone's acid. But if they're on that drug long term, it comes with severe consequences, right? Prednisone taper for sitting in poison oak and having your throat close. We want to do that pred taper, but now your hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis is off because you imported exogenous or outside cortisol that shuts down your brain's ability to communicate with your adrenals. So I'm going to have to do adaptogenic herbs post pred taper to re-wake up that hypothalamus pituitary axis. And then trashy drugs, lipophilic statins, fat soluble statins, Lipitor, atorvastatin is the #1 prescribed drug in America. And in the Journal of Nuclear Medicine, we have published 65-year-olds on atorvastatin, Lipitor, et cetera, lipophilic statins, increased conversion of mild cognitive impairment to dementia. Hydrophilic statins did not, and non-statin takers did not. This is in peer-reviewed, well-done, published medical doctor journals, and people still prescribe lipophilic statins, right? So let me tell you how good lipophilic statins are at arresting heart attack and stroke. About 17 to 24% prevention of heart attack and stroke on the best day, right? On the best day. That's an F. If you're lucky enough to not have a heart attack and stroke from taking a statin, then you get a higher likelihood of sitting in your poopy diapers with a ticker that didn't give out, but a brain that did. Right? So that's how asinine we are with evaluating data and being nimble to affect healthcare changes so we don't injure the patient, right? And that's what I mean with an integrity problem. An integrity problem is, oh my gosh, we got this drug wrong. 153,000 women in the Women's Health Initiative are going into type 2 diabetes faster on statins, and we're still offering statins, right? People are converting from mild cognitive impairment, honey, have you seen my keys, to dementia quicker on a lipophilic statin, right? And then Medicare is going to pay $6,000 to $12,000 a month to house that person. Private money at a Cadillac facility for memory care is going to go between $20,000 to $30,000 a month. But if you're in the Bay Area or New York City or the highfalutin Cadillac facilities in Boulder, Colorado, you're paying $25K a month for memory care a month. That's $300,000 a year. All said and done, all the labs we do that insurance won't cover at this point in time, which we're trying to influence and change, is about $4,000 to solve and resolve chronic illness, right? So that's how I got into what I do. Is I saw the principles of naturopathic medicine. I saw that identify and treat underlying causes, and I fell in love. I fell in love. I said, that's what I want to be. And then I did a residency where we did some underlying cause medicine, and then a little bit too much modality medicine for me, a little bit too much. Like, I love acupuncture, but I don't want to spend money on acupuncture if I haven't figured out the underlying causes yet, right? Or if I'm seeing Oprah, yeah, let's bring on the regular acupuncture, just speed everything up, you know. But if I have limited money and a single mom with 3 kids, if she winds up being SIRS, I might need $20,000 to fix a crawl space, right? If she's got apnea and she doesn't have insurance, we might need $1,800 for a CPAP machine and 2 or 3 extra visits to fine tune that. If they got a tooth abscess that's driving their migraines of 9 years, we might need $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 worth of dental care to remove that abscess, let that tissue heal, and eventually do a low immunoreactive implant. So that's where I'm concerned with where healthcare is going, in particular, holistic and integrated as well, is where we're selling modalities and we're selling supplements rather than spending money on identifying and treating the underlying cause of validated diagnostics. And we talked last time about urinary mycotoxins are the same in healthy people as they are in sick patients. So if a healthy person with no symptoms does a urinary mycotoxin test, they're full of urinary mycotoxins, right? If the sick person does the urinary mycotoxin test, they're full of urinary mycotoxins. There's no data published on separating healthy controls versus sick patient. With the strict diagnostic criteria for SIRS, MMP9, matrix metalloproteinase 9, was less than 332 in the healthy people. It's above 332 in sick patients. C4A without Futhan, run at National Jewish, is less than 2,830 in the healthy people. It's above 2,830 sick patient. TGF beta is less than 2380 in the healthy. It's above 2380 in the sick. MSH is 35 to 82, alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone run from LabCorp. In the healthy people, it's less than 35 in the sick patients. When I say validated labs and imaging, someone had to do the research to separate out what is a sick person's levels, that's part of the case definition, versus a healthy person. Just imagine if we told all women who got mammograms, you all got the same breast tissue, right? No, one has a tumor, one does not. There's a difference between the healthy control group and the person with the illness. So that's really where Dr. Richie Shoemaker is the hero of the day. Some people get rubbed wrong by his personality, or the guy doesn't need more friends. He doesn't need to be your friend. He needs to see the chronically ill graduate. And if you really know who Dr. Richie Shoemaker is, he's the guy who never gave up on the little guy, the woman who didn't have enough money, who didn't have access, who didn't have the healthcare to get clear answers for why they are ill. And to this day, he continues on that. He's going to be presenting at CIRS-X in July 13th to 16th, Boulder, Colorado, this insane data set, although it's small and a starting point, on underlying potential causes of ALS and Parkinson's, and how we get to, what is the mechanism of action of how we get to atrophy of the brain in these neuroinflammatory diseases. So it's exciting times to be part of Roots and Branches, CIRS-X, the biotoxic community, surviving mold, but you are with us and you are honestly spending your patients' time, money, and energy on getting them answers, or you are simply wasting the chronically ill, gullible, vulnerable patients' time, money, and energy. Those are the two deals on the table, right? And we have all the compassion for people who are like, oh my gosh, I haven't been, doing diagnosis properly. I want to go learn how to do that. There's no shame or blame. There's only our own internal self-evaluation and accountability. Can I be better tomorrow for the chronically ill? Can we figure out better ways to get there, right? And your first way is understand the peer-reviewed, published, reproducible work of Dr. Richie Shoemaker versus feelings, fads, and fiction in the chronically ill.
I think it's awesome. And I love listening to everything that you have in your journey of how you got here, and also just your heart for it all is just really inspiring. And I really feel that a lot of people listening to this are going to be inspired in a lot of different ways, from being the patient to also, being on the medical side of things. And I know one of the things that I have people ask a lot is, how do you find the right doctor? Or how do you know if the doctor that you're seeing is treating you correctly? Because I feel like there is so much out there, like you said, fads, and it gets really confusing, and it gets very muddy. The water's not clear, and it's hard. I mean, I'm really grateful that, our paths cross and I'm able to get this information when I have, but some people are down the road 10 years and they've been swayed in all these different directions. And so what would you say to those people who are trying to find a doctor, or who are at a doctor and not sure what to really do from where they're at?
Well, I think we talked in one of our conversations, can't remember if it was another podcast, but I recently diagnosed a patient with CIRS at 80 years old. And she has been suffering chronic fatigue since 11 years old. So she had CIRS before Dr. Shoemaker discovered CIRS in the biotoxin pathway. Like her illness predates the discovery of the illness. And for me, finding the right doctor is, you're looking for someone who doesn't have the medical curiosity beat out of them. You're looking for people whose love language is improved clinical outcomes. You're looking for people whose love language is, I want to change the healthcare system from what you have to why you have it. You're looking for people who are going to call a medical director at a lab and say, hey, you said these lab methods are validated. Are you talking about CLIA is making sure you pipette something right? Or you literally have a data set of healthy people and you've done the lab on them versus sick patients. And then once you apply the treatment, your labs go from concerning to totally clear and all the symptoms go away, right? And that's what Dr. Shoemaker did, right? So this is personal to me because I didn't have a doctor right? So, and I am an earnest, grind it out for the chronically ill mofo. Like when there's like a fun date night, 16 inches of fresh light powder, those are extraordinary experiences. But reconnecting with your wife and be like, and everything's jamming, all those things are just such a wonderful high. I don't know if it holds a candle to when you take someone who's chronically ill, sidelined on disability with no creativity, no productivity, suicidal ideations, having doubt, thought of as a freak by all their family members, and graduate them back to a reasonable quality of life. It is the best experience on the world. I do it for free. It costs money to run a clinic that does things right. We have 5 employees to run SIRS cases, 2 receptionists, a lab coordinator. All she does is organize labs, and then kind of like 1 full-time MA and then like a half MA and a half lab helper. It's a massive undertaking to do things right for the chronically ill. I'm not in denial of that, but I've always wanted to do it. The problem with SIRS is it was a blindside for me. So we were having really good results with autoimmunity. We are finally starting to understand apnea and apnea at higher altitude levels, and dental, and food is always part of the story. Sometimes it's 99% a celiac case, sometimes it's 1%, not that much of the story, and someone's working way too hard on clean eating, right? And so in 2013, Boulder, Colorado flooded. It got 16 inches of rain in 1 week. That is an annual rainfall for Boulder, Colorado in 7 days, and everything flooded. And patients that were never getting better with us got worse. And patients that were getting better with us got worse. And I had this a little bit eccentric phlebotomist who every week would give me something I should be reading and studying. And this week it was a paper on crystals and the energetic effects of crystals. And this week it was this, and a lot of times, I was just overwhelmed and I go, okay, here's the paper of the week, and I throw it aside. And one of those weeks she gave me Richie Shoemaker's book, Mold Warriors. And unfortunately, because it was given with all these other interesting ideas, just went on the back burner. And then I said, we're in a semi-arid desert. Could mold be the issue here? Doesn't things just dry out? No, there are spores in the Mojave Desert. You need 2 things to create illness. You need food, which is the American good-looking piece of junk houses we build with paper and pulp, right? We literally build with mold food, and still don't have a problem. You're cool until you get water. And that water can be as simple as a slow drip to your supply line, to your ice maker, or an ice dam going up, or your kid overflowed the toilet or the bathtub, whatever the flavor of the day. It could just be putting a swamp cooler on your house and pumping 60-80% humidity into your 16 to 26% Colorado home. So I said, oh, shoot. And I read the first 2 chapters. And then I was driving home late for dinner as usual. And I called my wife and I'm like, I got to pull over. There's this random Starbucks right here. I just can't stop thinking about these 2 chapters I just read. I think I might understand what's going on with our patient population. And I pulled into Starbucks and I read chapter 3 of Mold Warriors is the most profound, hair-raising chapter for a scientific doc, for a biochemical doc. And it laid out the biotoxin pathway and all the biochemistry of innate immune inflammation. And that's why when we were picking on urinary mycotoxins, that just tells you were in exposure. That exposure could be from eating a moldy blueberry, which is not SIRS. It could be from eating a moldy peanut, which is not SIRS. It could be from inhalation of a water damaged building, which is how you trigger SIRS. But everyone's got urinary mycotoxins. SIRS is the people who don't have the right immune response genes to see a biotoxin, make an antibody tag to it, and eradicate it. So instead, they turn on that alternate immune system, the innate immune system, where your military knows there's something out there, but they can't get a clean shot. They can't get their night vision goggles working, so they just spray bullets at it. And that is cytokine storms, right? And SIRS is not there's nothing to kill. It's an inert mycotoxin. So if your doctor's giving you itraconazole or diflucan, they don't know what they're doing, right? There's nothing to kill. There's something to remove. And you remove those things with 2 things: finding the source and having total removal. You don't fog it, right? You don't ozone bomb it. That just creates more cell wall fragments. That creates more immune reactivity. You have your mitigation, remediation team remove water damage. You don't worry about microbial growth, obviously if it's visible microbial growth, but if it got wet, even if you don't see anything growing, it comes out to 12 to 24 inches beyond. It's like cutting out a cancer. You need clean borders on that house. And then you need the miracle medicine, cholestyramine Welchol, to brick by brick, row by row, pull the biotoxin that your liver, gallbladder are so desperately excreting into your small intestine to go to the toilet, right? And if you're not on the medicine, you reabsorb that biotoxin, your liver, gallbladder works so hard to process through the portal vein, and you keep triggering your immune system to stay in chronic inflammatory response syndrome. So I'm reading this chapter, I go, oh my gosh, I know what's going on. And like my wife and I were on the brink of hating each other. Our kids weren't doing well. My younger son was having accidents despite being long out of daytime diapers, emotional lability, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis symptoms, head pain, tummy pain. My older was having just headaches and a little bit of mood stuff. And I signed up with Deb Wadener, the angel of the year, who's Dr. Shoemaker's assistant for now 40 years. He found her at a deli 40 years ago and said, you're pretty smart. Do you want to come work for me? And 40 years later, she is the engine behind all of his Excel spreadsheets, all of his data collections, all of his bibliography. She puts that all together. And she was a lay deli worker who's one of the smartest, humble people you'll ever meet. But I called Deb Wadener and I signed up for Dr. Shoemaker's doctor training program. And the rest is kind of history. But what I learned is this is why my own family's sick. And apparently I'm going to do SIRS by divine mandate. I don't want to do SIRS. I don't like this illness. It's a pain in the keister. I'm sick of talking to mitigators, remediators, inspectors, coaches, other doctors, specialists, Dr. Shoemaker on my calls home from work and walking in on my family with the phone in my hand again to make sure Mrs. Smith's house get done right and, you know, babysitting this project, doing that. But when you see the graduation from the illness, it is extraordinary. It is an extraordinary experience that is, it makes a crack pipe look like nothingness. It is the best feeling you will ever have inside to realize someone else got their life back, someone else's family got their person back, some friends got their friend back, and so on and so forth. And what we discovered is yours truly is an 11-352B. I'm a dreaded gene. I married a 4-353, another dreaded gene. And dreaded doesn't mean you're dreaded. It means it really sucks if you have that gene and you don't know what it means and you're ill. This is a vicious but treatable disease. Vicious but treatable disease. It will dement you. It will drive skin rashes. It will drive joint pain, make you feel sick, stupid, dumb, everything, but it's treatable. It's not stage 4 terminal cancer, right? But you need to know it. So we did this thing called Making Love, and we made an older 11-352B son and a younger 11-352B 4-353 dreaded gene son. I'm gonna throw some of those in my rhyme lyrics when we make our rap song for Surf Sex Olivia. I'll tell you about that later. But everybody in my family, when we ran the diagnostic criteria for SIRS, to this day, had some of the worst inflammatory cytokines we'd ever seen. Some of the highest C4As, TGF-beta1s, MMP9s. My older son had the highest anticardiolipin antibodies of anyone I've ever seen 10 years later, right? And anticardiolipin antibodies is how you can threaten miscarriage from SIRS. And there's 2 doctors that know anticardiolipin antibodies, the OBGYN and the Shoemaker certified practitioner. So the first thing I would ask is, are you a Shoemaker certified practitioner? Right.
Mhm.
And a lot of people can say yes, or they'll name drop Dr. Shoemaker. And then you need to ask, are you in the strict accordance with the Shoemaker protocol and diagnostic criteria for SIRS? That's number 2. There's people who throw around Shoemaker's name, go for the money grab, get on his coattails, and they are not doing real Dr. Shoemaker medicine. And that is hyper disrespectful because Dr. Shoemaker stayed up for 100-hour work weeks, 100 hours, try it. He did it for 25 years. Right? 60 is a minimum for him. 100 was a maximum when he was trying to finish a paper and get it to publication, right? While raising a family, while doing a full-time practice, while doing research on the side. Him and Deb Wadener and his lovely supportive family who put up with the amount of work, right? So when you attach your name to someone who's done that kind of work and you're not doing the work and you're bait and switching the science, that is disrespectful. You have an integrity problem and it needs to stop.
Mhm.
And that's because when you bait and switch, it doesn't work. Right? Activated charcoal is not cholestyramine. It's not chlorine ammonium. You can't make up organic chemistry. Right? Feelings don't matter on a SIRS case. Politics don't matter on a SIRS case. Subjectivity does not matter on any chronically ill case. Objectivity, unemotional, apolitical, differential diagnosis. It could be this, it could be that, it could be these, it could be thems. For a headache, I'm going to look at all 100 reasons I have with validated labs, and I'm going to get to the truth of the underlying causes of this person's headache. And this person's headache is going to be different than that person's headache. All right. Migraine means half head pain. So they say, you got migraines. You go, cool, I know, half my head hurts. Bad. Right. Why? I know what I have. Patient always knows what they have. No one knows a child better than mom. Mom knows what the kid has. Right. She doesn't know why. He doesn't know why. Right. So we did the Shoemaker protocol, and I went through so many failed experiments. People telling me you can use amphotericin B in a nasal spray, this, that, and the other thing. How many people thought they were a mitigator and would just like bring a fan to my house and start ripping stuff out and create plumes of microbial growth throughout my house, not knowing the proper sequence of when you clean ductwork. Is your duct sealed? All these things are what we are bringing to SIRS X. Then I had a conversation last night with these three heroines, Lori Rossi, Paula Bader, and Cindy Edwards, my soul sisters in healing, right? This is the book you need, Mold Illness, Surviving and Thriving, if you got diagnosed with CIRS. And they are participating in writing the certification programs we will be launching at this year's SIRS X on mitigation, remediation, coaching, and healthcare, right? So it's that trinity of you need a good doctor to diagnose you, you need a good mitigation, remediation, inspection team to make sure we get the building right, and then we need coaching to make sure you stay on track, but also to babysit everybody, myself included. I love it when Lori Rossi's on a case and she says, hey, Eric, didn't you want to blah, blah? I'm like, oh my gosh, Lori, I'm so embarrassed. We didn't, we should be there already, or we should be doing this, you know. And we're trying to create civil discourse again, and checks and balances and accountability, not shame and blame, accountability. If you make every decision in your practice with the chronically ill patient in mind, you will win, right? You'll feel good. You'll make more money than you need doing good work, but the patient will graduate, and the patient will maybe get to stay in their marriage. The patient will be a better parent. They'll be able to take care of their aging parents. They'll be able to be productive and creative and participate in society, right? But only if you do things to the letter. So the first thing is, are you Shoemaker certified? Number two is, are you in the strict accordance to the Shoemaker protocol? For Apex Energetics, the nutraceutical company I teach for, I'm going to teach at SIRS X using functional medicine to support the Shoemaker protocol. We're going to teach people how you can use some gut powder if CSM's getting a little gritty, how you can use cholagogues and gallbladder stimulating herbs if your biotoxin-laden bile isn't getting to the intestines properly, right? Constipated gallbladder is one of the biggest issues for constipation. Are you going, learning how to do all that? We can talk about using adaptogens, hypothalamus pituitary adrenal herbs. These are not adrenal herbs. These are brain adrenal herbs to bring back that ACTH cortisol while we're waiting to get to VIP, help the patient feel better. But none of that changes. Remove patient from biotoxin exposure, cholestyramine, Welchol, eradicate Marcons, remove gluten for at least 6 months, correct androgens, et cetera, the unadulterated Shoemaker protocol. You can just pat it. we correct androgens in a very integrated naturopathic way. So we rarely get agitation or aggression or grow a billy goat beard on a woman when we're correcting her DHEA. We bring back up her libido, her sex life starts to come back on. She now wants to work out. She goes and works out and recovers without exercise intolerance and so on and so forth. But you really need to precondition her liver before you get her up to the DHEA levels that bring her to Dale Bredesen's end of Alzheimer's, 350 to 430 on lab. DHEA sulfate. You have to run the lab that was published in the peer review, not DHEA. DHEA sulfate is conjugated DHEA. That's where all the science on Crohn's and dementia and SIRS was done. So you need a doctor who's in strict accordance with the Shoemaker protocol. And then number 3 is, do you help us with the buildings? Do you help us with finding high quality inspection? Do you help us with finding mitigation remediation? Do you use visual contrast sensitivity as a screening tool to participate? How do you clear a house? How does your practice clear a house, right? Are you using a vetted company that does Hurts Me Too Swiffer cloth, right? The only peer-reviewed published way to clear a house for mold for a biotoxin illness case is with Hurts Me technology. Mold plates can occasionally be used for certain things, tape lift tests occasionally for certain things, swabs occasionally for certain things, air samples occasionally for certain things, like if I want to suck air out of this very concentrated wall cavity, but none of those clear a house for a SIRS patient, right? And when your inspector is trying to use an air sample to clear a house, you say, hi, sir, madam, can you please tell me what level of air sample is published to statistically prove the likelihood I'm going to heal in this house with an illness called SIRS? There is none. There's no publication. There's one, and it's on Hurts Me ERMI technology, and that was put out by David Lark and Dr. Richard Shoemaker and presented in Netherlands on a Hurts Me less than 10 shows statistical likelihood for the patient to heal. Is a Hurts Me less than 10 guaranteed for you to heal? No, it's the best tool we have to say statistical likelihood, right? And now we know you could pass your Hurts Me, but still be getting sick off sewer gas or endotoxin. Or you clean the kitty litter box once a year and there's a Mount Everest of cat poop giving off endotoxin right next to your HVAC and utility closet, right? You could have water damage building bacteria known as actinomycetes, in particular Corynebacterium tuberculostiricum or Propionibacterium acnes. If you go to SIRS-X and you go to videos and you go to the October video, that was my talk, was actinomycetes. The problem is you trying to catch everybody up with, it's not just molds, it's also actinos and endotoxin. And Dr. Shoemaker freaked everyone out when he gave a talk and said, forget everything you ever learned about mold. I wish I could help like rewrite his speeches a little bit. What he should have written is everything I discovered, he should be freaking proud about that, about water damage building mold driving illness still is true. What's mind-blowing is that endotoxin, sewer gas, poop, caca, stool, dookie, is even more atrophying to the brain than molds. Actinomycetes is even more atrophying to the brain than molds, right? That's what he was trying to say, right? And 90% of atrophy we see on brain MRI and neuroquant is actually sewer gas issues, actinomycetes, and about 7 to 10% is you betcha water damage building molds. Now, what people need to realize is if you have water damage, it's a microbial stew anyway. It's not just molds. It's molds and bacteria, and they're in biological warfare, using that water to consume your building materials to grow and amplify with a serious life force. And you sniff that in, and with the wrong genes, you can't antigen present, tag it, and remove it, and you get sick. So 6 months to get our house fixed, 40 isolated water damage experiences, and then it went to 43. We had 3 bonus rounds after that, and 2 weeks of well call in my little guy with head pain, tummy pain, mood lability, accidents at night, and juvenile rheumatoid arthritis pain. Gone, 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 gone. And that's how a 4-year-old heals from certain symptoms. You give a 4-year-old clean building, an honest clean building, cold stymie well call, it's weeks, not years, It's weeks, right? And adults, a little more complicated. Sometimes you also have to work on thyroid issues or whatever the flavor of the day is. But that's that's our story, and we're
Isn't
sticking to it.
That's what I think it's so beautiful that you said, like, it's not so beautiful, I guess. It's the wrong word. It stinks. Like you said, like this whole thing stinks. And it's like it's not something that you would choose to do. It's a pain in the butt. And I can't imagine on the medical side of things. I just know on my own personal journey of things, it totally sucks and it's a pain in the butt. But I think what is beaming and the beautiful part of this, just like I said before, it's like you did not just go through your situation and then get through it, you're fine, and forget about it. It's like you really took your pain and suffering that you've gone through personally and you've used that now to plant seeds of hope to make a difference in this world. And I think the same exact thing with Emily and Elizabeth. Like, it's just so awesome. And I'm so inspired being able to be surrounded by you guys because it is overwhelming and it's a lot. And so I just want to thank both of you and Elizabeth in spirit because I know she's busy, but she's still here just really it's inspiring. And I want to encourage you guys that you are making a difference in so many people's lives. So that's incredible.
And I know we're winding down, but I have to tell you, I had a call with these three incredible women, Cindy Edwards, Lori Rossi, and Paula Vetter last night, because they're team patient. And at SIRS-X, if we make every decision with the patient in mind, every decision is what's the best way to do this for the patient, we're going to win.
Mhm.
If you're looking for a money grab, if you're looking for fame, if you're looking for, sell a mold magnet, sellouts need to get the hell out.
Mhm.
Right? We don't need you. What we need is people who want a sense of purpose in their life and do extraordinary work to help recover tortured lives, overwhelmed lives, right? And I can't celebrate anyone more in this 24 hours than Paula, Lori, and Cindy. And one of the things Lori said last night, it haunted me. I woke up last night in the middle of the night to pee, and I was like thinking about it. And she said how much trauma the healthcare inspection and mitigation system has perpetrated on the chronically ill through coming up with a solution based in false hope, shyster charlatans, and shenanigans, and how traumatizing that is. So our goal with SIRS-X is to get the second your awareness is maybe I have SIRS, you do a biotoxin exposure screening of visual contrast sensitivity and a cluster of symptoms. That's the screening for SIRS. That's my opening talk at SIRS-X this year. It grounds everything. If you are statistically likely to have SIRS, then we get the money to pay for the labs and confirm the diagnosis. People want to like order a Hertzman cloth before they even have the diagnosis. Slow down, cowboy, slow down, cowgirl. We got to get a validated diagnosis first. It is or it isn't SIRS because of Dr. Shoemaker's honest work, right? You do not get that from urinary mycotoxins. You don't get that from antibodies to mold. It's not mold allergy. It's chronic inflammatory responses. It's actually the opposite side of the immune system. It's the innate immune responses, right? And then we get to who are we going to let in your house to do a proper inspection? Who are we going to let in your house to do a proper remediation mitigation? And we need to train thousands and thousands of those people to do things right and clean your house to SIRS clean, right? Not real estate clean to make a house sell on the market, right? Passing Hertzman and Ermi Swiffers, endotoxin, actiniomycetes have been evaluated and eradicated, right? If we can get there, we will stop traumatizing patients as a healthcare system, right? And I'm talking about people who play around in the mold space, right? That's even before we get to the conventional or naturopath or whoever who just quietly or literally says, you just need to exercise more. You just need to clean up your diet. You're just crazy, right? Cheryl's cuckoo. Yeah. So people just want to spend their life in healthcare as a hobby. No, they're desperate to get better, right? And they're counting on us to identify and treat the underlying causes and then work to pair them up with integrity And that's the biggest problem we have. To this day, we're constantly supporting our mitigation, remediation, and inspection teams on this is what you do for SIRS. This is what you do for SIRS. This is what you do for SIRS, because they took a course on how to do an air sample and clear a house for a real estate sale. They took a course on how to flood cut and not deal with that 2x4 that's still sitting on the moist concrete slab, right? So our goal is to say, hey, we all are practicing. We're all making mistakes with clients, customers, and patients, right? It's the integrity behind those mistakes. Now you know there's something called the Shoemaker Protocol. There's a peer-reviewed, published, reproducible diagnostic criteria and treatment plan. And the biggest thing we have to deal with as doctors, the Shoemaker Protocol is piece of cake, except for step 1, remove patient from biotoxin exposure. And if you get that right, the Shoemaker Protocol never fails. Never fails. It's just patients are stuck on step 1. They're still in exposure.
I am so glad that you honestly led this interview off with the integrity part, because you're absolutely spot on with that. I find that every single day. That's what's the problem in this industry, is people are lacking integrity. You know, you mentioned the whole bait and switch thing, and I can't tell you the countless of calls I get where people are saying, well, you know, they just seem like they knew what they were doing. They have all of these credentials. Why would they have not done things right? Because they don't have integrity. A lot of people will go get all these certificates just so that they look like the trusted person, and then they go in and they cut corners and they do shoddy work, and those people don't know any different, and then they stay sick. And of course, you know, they're not going to get better until they get somebody in there with integrity to do it right, remove the problem. But that all costs money, and people can't afford it.
Well, they definitely can't afford it after they wasted money.
Yeah, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000.
Our most expensive is a patient who came in spending $5.5 million on getting nowhere. And the biggest cost for him was panic buying houses without a proper inspector to help him find the right house. And then he'd have to fire sell these assets. And he's a tech mogul with probably about 50, 60 million in the bank. Every dollar he spends is just as important to us as a single mom with 3 kids who's dead broke, right? If I'm seeing Oprah, every dollar counts. Nothing should be frivolous. Every dollar you spend needs to be asking a yes, it is happening, or no, it is not happening, validated question, right? So whether that's for building care or healthcare, right? If you're going to do an air sample, you have to explain to me exactly why you're going to do the air sample. You have to tell me all the pros and cons of that air sample, right? Air samples don't speciate. They don't do Aspergillus penicillioides, right? Air samples can have 0.3 microns slip right through them. These biotoxins can go down to 0.1 microns. Chaetomium and Stachybotrys settle. They're heavy, dank molds like jelly, right? They need horizontal surface sampling. They're not wispy. If you find chaetomium or stachy in an air sample, that is a ragingly contaminated building, right? And people aren't talking about the limitations. It doesn't mean air samples are worthless. If I want to see what's growing in this wall cavity right here, I drill a little hole and I suck out some concentrated air, I'm going to have a reasonable tool to answer that question. So you're absolutely right. And there's 2 types of people, and I was the first. That was, I didn't know I wasn't doing things right for you, chronically ill patient population, when it came to SIRS. And I'm sorry. And the second I bumped into Dr. Shoemaker's work, I signed up for my training program and I worked my tail off and failed my way to success on understanding how to run a clinic, how to run a practice. Lawyer Rossi is also going to create a practice management course for SIRS-X so that we can give staff a turnkey experience on how to help engage with and coach and line up and schedule everything biotoxin ill, right? Make sure they have the right LabCorp identifier codes, Quest codes, National Jewish codes, to make sure they're not running the wrong labs. It's DHEA sulfate, not DHEA. It's alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone from LabCorp. Quest can do other things, but they can't do alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone. So all these little details and this turnkey experience is what we want. And once you know, and now you're pretending you don't know, that's when we really want to call that out, because the most important person is the sick patient in the room, right?
Mhm.
More important than a friendship you have with a colleague, you have to politely, privately pull your colleague aside and say, look, you're cutting corners. It's not how it's done. If you're not going to do it right, don't be disrespectful to Dr. Shoemaker's work. You're going to make incredible medical discoveries look bad, right? And that's what we have to do. So our solution to this at SIRS-X is, don't worry about it. You're either going to become a screener, you're a neurologist or neurology nurse or an acupuncturist, and you know how to ask biotoxin illness exposure questions. You know how to do a VCS. You know how to do cluster symptoms. Or you're going to be someone who gets referred to with those screenings, who screens, diagnoses, treats, and is willing to get their hands dirty on the buildings. And that's it.
Well, I thought I would have a lot more questions for you, but you've been so thorough, and I love how you put everything in layman's terms, so it's so easily to understand, because usually when people talk medical stuff, I'm usually like, oh, what? Um, so I
Been
love
there, done that. We'll unfortunately probably have to do it again because of American construction defect issues. But as of right now, thank the Lord, knock on wood, we have clean living for me and my family and our staff. So
I love that, and I agree with you too. I think the whole graduation part, there's nothing that beats that. I'll never forget the day when, I was told that my son, who was, back then there weren't a lot of studies showing that mold could cause a kid to regress into autism or show autism-like symptoms, that he was just like that, and that's how he was going to be. And I was like, no, 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 no. He was fine before mold, and he can get better. And I'll never forget the day when I got the phone call after he was reevaluated after we detoxed him, and they were like, he's no longer considered autistic.
yeah,
It's incredible.
that happened. And that should get you out of bed in the morning as a doctor, right? That should make you want to pick up Dr. Shoemaker's 40 peer-reviewed, reproducible, published papers, and just one a night, one every other night. Dr. Bastyr said, if you want to be good at this, you're going to read a medical journal paper every night before bed. Get into it. And then you'll start getting a little bit better at it. And then you'll have those moments where you see someone graduate from your clinic, go back to just their annual PAP, occasional colonoscopy, occasional heart scan, occasional 3D digital mammogram, write you those nice Christmas cards. Things are going well, see you never, right? And in all reality, usually with us chronically ill, 3 years, 7 years later, someone's like, I was feeling great. Now I got whacked out. I thought my Hawaii condo that we rented was going to be fine. Usually it's just get back to your safe home, run your stuff through the laundry, get back on cholestyramine, and you'll reset. And once in a while, you need another round of VIP or something. But it's really heroic medicine that Dr. Shoemaker discovered. And the biggest pain in the butt is step one, remove patient from biotoxin exposure.
Mhm.
So if you're willing to grind that out, you're going to see those graduations.
Thank you, Eric, seriously, for all that you do. I mean, you're very inspiring, and I am so excited to hear and learn more at the SIRS-X.
We're
Yeah.
super stoked you're coming, sirsx.com. I want to tell everybody, I don't know when you're going to publish this, but as of right now, we have 18 hotel rooms left at the $250 a night discount. It's Boulder, and Boulder is stupid. There are no other rooms available in that hotel for our conference weekend. The whole hotel is sold out. On average, the rooms are $600 a night during the summer. So if you're going to join us, sign up, and on your conference registration, you get the link to the to the hotels. And our lineup, yours truly is the hostess of the mostest this year, and I just was not going to have anything but the best preach and teach. We got Dr. Shoemaker, we got Elijah Stommel on higher rates of ALS around cyanobacteria clusters, algae blooms as a potential underlying cause of ALS. My soul sister in healing, Lori Mishley, on all things integrated Parkinson's. She is a wildly published clinician and researcher on Parkinson's. She's an ND, MPH, PhD, overachiever, and I love her for it. We got Dr. Shoemaker on neuroquant and ALS and Parkinson's, mind-blowing stuff. So It's going to be a healing party. And most importantly, Olivia is bringing her guitar. And let's just say I might throw down some freestyle rhyming, but we'll see how the weekend goes.
It's going to be awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you
you.
so much for being here.